Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads. So the next Kaya story is called Kaya's Hero. Chapter 1, Runaway Horse. Kaya knelt on a mat in the winter lodge and leaned over the baby named Light on the Water, who lay in her teacups. Tots may we, Kaya crooned her. Are you unhappy this morning? Light on the Water gazed steadily into Kaya's eyes, but her mouth trembled and turned down as if she were about to cry. Kaya stroked the plump, warm cheek. Are you wet? Is that what you're telling me? She asked. She loosened the lacing of the buckskin that wrapped the baby and pulled it away from her feet and legs. The soft cattail fluff that cushioned the baby's bottom was soaked. Kaya pulled it out, dried the baby, and placed the fresh fluff underneath her. She squeezed one of the baby's little toes and kissed her forehead. Light on the Water smiled now. Tots, Kaya said as she laced up the covering again. Running alone, Kaya's young aunt put her hand on Kaya's shoulder. Won't you make the lacing just a little tighter? She asked. We're going to ride out and gather wood for the fires, and I want my baby very safe. Kaya tightened the lacing and then carried the baby out of the lodge. The day was chilly, and Light on the Water's breath was a small cloud on her lips. When Running Alone had mounted her horse, Kaya handed her the baby. Running Alone slipped the carrying strap of the teacups over her saddle horn and gazed down at her smiling daughter. She likes your gentle touch, she told Kaya. She's so easy to care for, Kaya said. Not like my little brothers. Look, they think I can't see them hiding behind the tree. She pointed at the two sets of dark eyes gleaming through the branches of a pine. Boys, let's go riding, she called to the twins, and they came running, clutching rows of spotted fawn skins around their shoulders. Like all Nimi-Poo children, they loved to be on horseback. Kaya helped one twin climb up behind her older sister, Brown Deer. Then Kaya mounted a chestnut mare and lifted up the other twin. As she waited for the other women and children to mount, she glanced up toward the north. The foothills of the distant mountains were already white-robed with snow, but here in Salmon River country, the earth was still brown and bare. Each winter, Kaya's band came to the sheltering hills to make their winter village. They pulled up their lodges near the banks of the stream and stayed until spring, when it was the time to move up to the prairie to dig nourishing roots and bulbs for food. Kaya put her alp-robe more tightly around her shoulders, even dressly warmed in fur-lined moccasins legging a robe. Kaya shivered in the chill of winter, but she remembered the heat of the late summer when enemies from Buffalo country made a raid on her people to steal horses. Kaya's horse, Steps High, was stolen with the other Nimi-Poo horses, and in the raid, Kaya and her sister, Speaking Rain, were captured as slaves and taken far away to the enemy camp. There they met a Salish boy, Two Hawks, who was held as a slave. Kaya and Two Hawks managed to escape and cross the mountains back to her people, but Speaking Rain, who was blind, had insisted that she couldn't keep up, that Kaya must leave her behind. Kaya shivered again. She remembered, too, how cold and hungry she and Two Hawks had been when they made their way over to Buffalo Trail. Now she and the boy were safe again, fed by meat and warmed by the hides of animals that had given themselves to her people. But Two Hawks had broken his ankle on the trail, and it was slow to heal. He sat alone and homesick all day. Kaya felt as if she had two aches in her chest. One ache was a sharp-edged gratitude that she was with her family again, but the other was a stab of grief that Speaking Rain was still a captive. Kaya had promised that they would be together again, but where was her sister now? If Kaya could find her, how could she save her? And would she ever see her beautiful, beloved horse again? Soon, Kaya was riding single file with the others. After a time, they came to a bowl-shaped canyon where the trees grew quickly. The children ran to play, and the women fanned out the creek to gather wood. A girl named Little Fawn and some boys were climbing spin saplings and swinging to and fro on them. "Magpie, fly into the trees with us," Little Fawn called to Kaya. "Magpie?" Kaya winced. She tries to ignore that awful nickname the children had given her when they were all switched for her offense. I'm gonna be honest. It seems like a really terrible thing to do when someone's just escaped from being a slave. "Not now," she called back. "I'm going to look for more fluff for the baby." She glanced toward Light on the Water and Running Alone, who was tethering her horse to a tree. The baby, lulled by a rocking ride, napped in her tikas on the saddle horn. Taking a twine bag, Kaya started for the stream after the other women. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed across the canyon. Kaya whirled around. The branch Little Fawn was pulling on had broken off. Little Fawn jumped to the ground. The branch slashed down like a spear and struck the rump of Running Alone's horse. The startled horse reared up in alarm and broke her tether. Wild-eyed, the panicked horse began to bolt down the canyon, the baby and the tika still hanging on the side. "Stop! Stop!" Running Alone cried out. She ran after the galloping horse. Kaya ran too. The fleeing horse was already halfway down the canyon and headed for the narrow opening and open country beyond. The tikas bumped against the horse's shoulder with each plunging step. Would the baby be tossed off? Light on the Water could be badly hurt or killed. Near the canyon opening, the woman named Swan Circling came rushing from the woods. Dropping the rope behind her, she ran swiftly to cut off the horse's escape. She reached the opening of the canyon first and spun around to face the galloping horse, which was thundering straight at her. Taking a stand, she spread her arms wide, like an eagle in flight. Would the horse run her down? Swan Circling stood her ground. Right in front of her, the runaway skidded to a halt. The horse snorted and tossed her head, flinging lather onto both Swan Circling and the baby. Swan Circling squeezed the horse's reins. She held the horse firmly in place as Running Alone came rushing to her baby. Running Alone lifted the tikas from the saddle horn and clutched it to her chest. "My little one," she cried, kissing her baby's face over and over. "You saved my baby, Swan Circling. Catsy, yow yow. I can never thank you enough." Kaya came running behind her aunt. She reached to take the holds of the reins too and stroked the horse's neck and shoulder to calm her. "I saw you step out in front of the horse, but how'd you get her to halt?" Running Alone asked. "She could have run right past you or right over you." "I didn't think of that," Swan Circling said. "I wanted her to stop, and she did. Is your baby all right?" Light on the Water was grinning. She thought the bouncing runaway ride was a game. Swan Circling glanced over at Kaya, who was still stroking the horse's lathered neck. "You seem to have a way with horses," she said approvingly. "She's quieting down. Will you lead her back now?" Kaya held the reins of the uneasy horses securely as she and Swan Circling returned to the others. As they walked, she studied Swan Circling's calm face. Kaya had been curious about Swan Circling ever since she'd married Claude Necklace and joined the band. And now Kaya remembered that the woman who appeared to her when she was lost on the Buffalo Trail had looked like Swan Circling. Had the vision been a sign that they would be friends? Kaya hoped so. She wished she could become as strong as this brave young woman who hadn't even flinched when a horse charged straight at her. Later that day, Kaya sat with the other girls and women at one end of the lodge that several families shared. Many layers of tool mats and hides covered the lodge. Parfleches and piles of blankets were stacked along the bottom to keep out drafts. The women unfolded the hides they tanned in the summer and set out making moccasins and clothes in carrying cases. They took out the hemp cord they twisted and wove blankets and bags. They made their clothes beautiful with fringes and beads and quill decorations. Kaya loved working with others in the warm winter lodge. Kaya watched brown deer stringing a necklace of beads made from shells. From time to time, brown deer ran her fingers lovingly across the beads. The necklace was made for a man, and Kaya guessed her sister was making it for Cut Cheek. The two had danced together last summer, and soon they'd seen each other when he came with the neighboring villagers for the winter gatherings. Each day now, brown deer combed her hair and dressed it with fragrant oil so it would grow long and silky. Kaya's mother, Ista, was finishing a large twine storage bag, one of the many, many gifts they would give to the family and friends when they came to visit. Kayusta, Kaya's grandmother, was weaving a small hat. Kaya watched her grandmother expert work closely because the hat was for her. Kaya would wear it in the spring when she went to dig roots with the other girls and women. She loved the red zigzags, and Kayusta worked into the design. Kaya put aside the basket she was weaving and picked up her sister's warm buckskin doll. Speaking Rain had carried her everywhere she went. With her sister gone, Kaya had kept the doll close to her. As she adjusted the doll's dress, she discovered a tear in the back. A bit of deer hair stuffing poke out. She decided to mend it and have it ready for spring speaking Rain when she was with them again. Kaya wanted to take care for the doll because she feared she hadn't taken good care of Speaking Rain. When the enemies had made their raid in the night last summer, Ista had told Kaya to take Speaking Rain to hide in the woods. But Kaya went first to look for her horse, and enemies seized her and her sister and carried them off. How Kaya regretted that she hadn't done as her mother told her. If I were as strong as Swan Circling, Kaya thought, I'll find a way to get my sister back. Kayusta, may I ask you a question? Kaya asked quietly. You may ask me anything, Kayusta said. A slight smile crinkled in the corner of her eyes. Ask, then I'll decide if I want to answer you. You're teasing, Brown Deer said, laughing. You always answer us. It's true, Kayusta said. I've always answered your questions so far. What do you want to know? Kaya threaded her bone needle with a bit of sinew and began stitching the tear in the buckskin doll. I want to know about Swan Circling. What makes her so different? Different? Kayusta said. Oh, you must be asking me how Swan Circling came to be a warrior woman. Now there's a story. Can you tell us? Brown Deer asked eagerly. Kayusta nodded. Her fingers were busy as she twined the brown hemp with her yellow bear grass. Swan Circling came to live with us when she and Claude Nicholas had married 3 winters ago. We all saw right away that she was a strong girl, eager to help. Then Kayusta pauses and held the hat she was weaving above Kaya's head to check the size. The many strands of cord trailing from the hat tickled Kaya's nose. Then, Kaya prompted her grandmother. Then, Brown Deer echoed. What happened then, Kayusta? Kayusta put back in her lap and began to work on it again. Then Swan Circling went with her husband on a hunting trip to buffalo country. While they slept one night, enemies attacked them. To steal horses as they did us? Kaya asked. Not to steal horses, Kayusta said. They came to fight, or to show their courage just by touching our warriors. Our men rushing from the teepees to defend themselves. Claude Nicholas hurried into the skirmish, but in his eagerness to fight, he left behind some bows and an arrow. He didn't have any weapons? Kaya asked. He was in great danger, Kayusta said. Instead of running for cover with the other women, Swan Circling picked up his weapons and ran into the fight. Arrows flew all around her. One even singed her arm, but it didn't pierce her flesh. She gave her husband a bow and arrows so she could fight well, and then she tended our wounded men. She was never wounded by arrows, though a few tore her dress. Did Swan Circling tell you this? Kaya asked. She would never speak of her bravery, Cayusta said. It was Claw Necklace who had told us what had happened. After our men won the fight, they gave Swan Circling an evil feather for her bravery. A very high honor, you know. I know she goes into battles, Brown Deer said. She brings fresh horses to the riders whose horses have been hurt. So when she does, Cayusta said, Swan Circling has brought many things to us. You were with her when she saved Ronnie Alone's baby, weren't you, Kaya? Cayusta. Kaya said, I saw it all. Then you know she's fearless, Cayusta said. I believe she wouldn't hesitate to fight a grizzly bear. There's only one sad thing. Brown Deer stopped stringing beads and looked up. What sad thing? Brown Deer asked. Well, as you know, Swan Circling doesn't have any children. That's sad, don't you think? Cayusta asked. It would be very sad not to have any children, Brown Deer said slowly, as if she were imagining how she'd feel if she were Swan Circling. But she and her husband are young, Cayusta broke in. There's plenty of time for them to have children. Cayusta agreed. There's time for children, and they'll be strong, like her. I'm sure of that. Then she tapped Kaya's hand. I'm glad you mended your sister's doll, granddaughter. Cayusta rose to her knees and peered into the cooking basket. We need some water so we can cook our meal. Right away, Kaya got to her feet to go fetch the water. Then she caught up with Little Fawn on the trail to the stream. Like Kaya, Little Fawn carried a large water basket, but she was limping. Did you hurt yourself on the branch rope? Kaya asked. Maybe you climbed too high. Little Fawn winced at each step, but she took her head. It's nothing. I've jumped out of trees much higher than that. Other women and girls were drawing water at the stream. Kaya saw Swan Circling a little way downstream, leading a spotted mare. As the mare drank, Swan Circling dampened a bundle of leaves and tied it on the mare's back. Kaya went downstream to her side. She had been eager to see Swan Circling again. Now she stood beside her. She didn't know what to say. She stroked the mare's flank. This is a pretty one, she said. Has she got sores on her back? Swan Circling said. The men saw her rolling in a patch of sage to heal herself. They asked me to make poultice of the sage for her. The spots on her rump remind me of my horse Steps. Kaya stopped, afraid to go on for fear her voice would break. Swan Circling glanced at her with concern in her eyes. You miss your horse, don't you? She said. I just saw that boy who escaped with you. Kaya leaned out and dipped her water basket into the stream. 2 hawks can't put his weight on his broken ankle yet, she said. He has to be patient. You're right, Swan Circling said. It takes time for Bone to heal, but he looks lonesome and grumpy. That's because he doesn't like to be patient, Kaya said. Swan Circling laughed. That's the kind of boy he is. It's good you were with him when he escaped. You're a dependable girl, I can see that. You two were very strong to run away and find your way back. It's too bad he's unhappy here with us. Kaya's cheek burned with pleasure at this praise of the woman she admired so much. To keep Swan Circling from seeing this, she was blushing. Kaya turned her head. Little Fawn was standing on the shore a little ways upstream, a basket of water in her arms. When Kaya looked her way, Little Fawn lifted her chin and narrowed her eyes. Magpie flew back to her nest, she said, and limped away. Was she jealous of the praise Kaya had been given? Magpie? Swan Circling said. Is that your nickname, Kaya? She patted the mare's rump and took the lead rope. They call me that sometimes, Kaya said. Swan Circling gave Kaya a searching look. Some nicknames dig into us like bear claws, she said. As you grow older, they don't hurt so much. Will you remember that, Kaya? Kaya said. I'll remember. Tots, Swan Circling said with approval. She started to lead the mare back to the men who tended the horses. Kaya bit her lip as she watched Swan Circling walk back to the herd. Swan Circling had offered her good advice about her nickname. But of course, she didn't know that Kaya had gotten that nickname last summer because she had run off to raise a horse instead of taking care of her brothers. Whip Woman had scolded Kaya, saying she must learn to think of others before she thought of herself. If Swan Circling knew that, she certainly regret calling Kaya strong or dependable. And if she knew it was Kaya's fault that she and Speaking Ray had been taken captive, would Swan Circling have any respect for her at all? And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.